There was a version of me that used to laugh without thinking about it. A version of me that didn't rehearse conversations before speaking, didn't apologize for existing, didn't wake up tired before the day even began. And sometimes, I wish I could restart my life. Not from the beginning, not to erase every mistake, just from the moment I started losing myself. Because if I'm honest, I don't even know exactly when it happened. Maybe it was gradual, hidden inside the little compromises I kept making. The times I stayed quiet when something hurt me. The times I accepted less because I was afraid of losing people. The times I abandoned my own needs just to keep the peace. Maybe losing yourself doesn't happen all at once. Maybe it happens in pieces, one disappointment at a time, one heartbreak at a time, one silent sacrifice at a time, until one day you wake up and realize you've become a stranger to yourself. You still look the same on the outside. People still call your name. You still show up, still answer, still smile in photos. But inside, something feels missing. The fire, the softness, the confidence, the version of you that once believed life could actually feel beautiful. And the hardest part is, most people never notice when you're disappearing because you learn how to function while falling apart. You become good at pretending, good at saying I'm fine, good at carrying pain quietly so nobody feels uncomfortable around you. And eventually, even you start believing the performance. But late at night, when everything goes quiet, you feel it, that emptiness, that exhaustion, that grief for the person you used to be. And the questions start. When did I become this tired? When did I stop recognizing myself? When did survival become my entire personality? I think a lot of people are grieving versions of themselves they never got to protect. The younger version that was hopeful, the softer version that trusted easily, the version that believed love would be safe. Life happened, people happened, pain happened, and little by little, you adapted. You became more guarded, more careful, more numb, not because you wanted to, because you had to. There's a certain kind of heartbreak that comes from realizing you spent years abandoning yourself just to be accepted by others. You shrink your opinions, your personality, your needs, your voice. You become who everyone else needs you to be. Reliable, strong, available, understanding. But somewhere in the process, you stop asking what you need. And eventually your soul begins to feel homeless inside your own body. That's what nobody talks about. The way self-loss feels less like destruction and more like disconnection. You stop feeling present. You stop feeling anything deeply except exhaustion. You survive, but you don't feel connected to the life you're surviving for. And maybe that's why the thought appears sometimes. If I could just restart, not because you hate your life, but because you miss yourself. You miss the version of you that wasn't constantly carrying emotional weight, the version that didn't overthink every interaction, the version that wasn't afraid of disappointing people. You miss feeling whole. But here's something I've learned. You cannot heal by trying to become your old self again, because your old self didn't know what you know now, hadn't survived what you survived. Maybe the goal isn't to go backward. Maybe the goal is to meet yourself again, differently, more honestly, more gently, more intentionally. Because losing yourself does not mean you are gone forever. It just means you've been disconnected for too long. And reconnection begins in small ways, very small ways. It begins the moment you finally admit, I am not okay. Not for attention, not for pity, but because truth is the first step back to yourself. It begins when you stop calling self-betrayal being nice. When you stop romanticizing people who only loved your usefulness. When you stop shrinking to fit places that require your silence. In the movies, healing looks dramatic, but in real life, healing often looks incredibly quiet. It looks like resting without guilt, saying no without over-explaining yourself, eating properly again, sleeping properly again, taking walks, listening to music that makes you feel human. It looks like allowing yourself to exist without constantly earning your worth. And for some people, that's revolutionary, because many of us were taught that our value only existed in what we could provide. Be productive, be helpful, be impressive, be available. But nobody taught us how to simply be. Nobody told us we deserved love before achievement, before perfection, before exhaustion. So we built identities around performance, and performances are exhausting to maintain. That's why some people are deeply tired even when they've done everything right, because success cannot replace self-connection. You can achieve everything and still feel lost, be admired and still feel empty, be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. Because the deepest loneliness isn't being alone, it's being disconnected from yourself. And I think many people spend years trying to outrun that feeling, working constantly, scrolling constantly, chasing constantly, anything to avoid sitting quietly with the question, what happened to me? But healing begins when you stop running from that question, and instead that you sit with it, not to shame yourself, not to drown in regret, but to understand yourself compassionately. Because the truth is, you didn't lose yourself because you were weak. You lost yourself because you were surviving. There's a difference. Some people became hyper-independent because nobody came to save them. Some became emotionally distant because vulnerability was punished. Some became people pleasers because love felt conditional. Some became perfectionists because mistakes once made them feel unsafe. These weren't character flaws. They were adaptations, protective mechanisms, ways your mind tried to keep you alive, emotionally. But survival versions of ourselves are not meant to become permanent identities. At some point, you have to ask, do I still need this version of me? Or am I finally allowed to become someone softer, someone freer, someone real? I know change sounds beautiful in theory, but rediscovering yourself can feel terrifying. Because when you've spent years shaped by survival, peace can feel unfamiliar. Boundaries can feel selfish. Rest can feel lazy. Honesty can feel dangerous. But healing requires discomfort, not the discomfort of suffering, the discomfort of becoming unfamiliar with chaos. And slowly, very slowly, you begin returning to yourself. Your laughter becomes more natural. Your body relaxes. Your mind gets quieter. Not perfect, not magically healed, but more connected, more alive. And one day you realize something. You no longer wish to restart your life because you finally understand the goal was never to erase your past. The goal was to stop abandoning yourself in the present. That's the real transformation. Not becoming a new person, becoming your own person again. And yes, healing is not linear. Some mornings you feel powerful. Other mornings you feel fragile. Both are normal. Both are human. But every time you choose yourself honestly, you reclaim another piece. Every boundary, every honest conversation, every moment of rest, every decision rooted in self-respect. Piece by piece, you come home to yourself. And if you're listening to this while feeling lost, I need you to hear this clearly. Your life is not over because you lost yourself for a while. People lose themselves in grief, in relationships, in survival, in trauma, in fear. It happens. But people can also return to themselves, not instantly, not easily, but intentionally. You are allowed to outgrow survival mode. You are allowed to become softer. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to change. And most importantly, you are allowed to meet yourself again without hating who you had to become to survive. That version of you carried pain the best way it knew how. Respect that version. But don't stay trapped there forever, because there is still a life waiting for you beyond exhaustion, still joy beyond numbness, still connection beyond fear, still peace beyond self-abandonment. And maybe the restart you've been wishing for isn't a brand new life. Maybe it's simply this moment, this decision, this breath, the moment you stop asking to go backward and finally choose to come back to yourself instead.